All right. Welcome in, everybody, to the High Noon Rants. I am Pugs Moran. I do this every Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. It is a rant. It is a stream of consciousness rant, which means no interruptions, no breaks, just me, no guests. I'm just talking. Whatever it is that's next on deck in my brain to say, it slides out. No governor, no filter. It's crazy. Anything can happen. We do it every day, Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. since 2021. That's right. This is not just some... You see, I can follow through on things. 3 years. 3 years we've been doing this. How does it work? Well, I perform the show in what we'll call 4 quarters, right? Like a football game. First quarter, little thing I call antecedently on this day. We run through all of this day's history. Whatever happened on this day throughout time, if I found it significant, I'll talk about it. Whatever feeds the stream of consciousness rant. Quarter 2 is birthdays. You know what that is. People having birthdays. We just look at them. We go, hey, this person's having a birthday. Are they cool? And then, happy birthday or not, I suppose. Quarter 3, that's the deads. This is fun. This is where we get into people who died on this day, and we open up their life's resume, I call it, and we comb through it, and we decide where did they go when they died, heaven or hell. Then we get into quarter 4. That's the bulk of the show. The first 3 quarters, they're over in about a half hour or so, but the bulk of the show is going to be in quarter 4. That's all the hot topics, current events, headlines, trends, whatever it is that people are talking about today. That's where we do that. That's in quarter 4. Excuse me. Excuse me. I'm not going to complain about my allergies every single day, but it's not getting any better. And this weather today, although I do applaud the weather, that's right. I love this weather. What is the weather? Well, we do the show here from North Texas, Highland Park, beautiful Dallas, Texas. It's a thunderstormy. It is rainy. Been raining all morning. It's rainy. There's lightning. There's thunder. It's dark. I love something about these kinds of days. I can remember being in grade school. We went to one of these, I went to a school that was built in the 70s by a bunch of hippies who got government money when Carter was president. So this building wasn't like a typical school. And it also had something that we Gen X kids, we were educational lab rats. They didn't remember new math. Remember how they tried to reinvent math for Gen X and then they abandoned it like after 2 years? It's like, we worked to learn it. And they're like, yeah, never mind. Your parents can't figure it out. So we're just going to move on. Never mind. Gen X, just another excuse to brutalize us through experimentation. Well, one of the things they did was they tried to redo education, and all the new schools that were built had these open classrooms. Do you remember open classrooms? Because I guess the theory on it was when you put a child in a closed old-timey classroom and you shut that door, you have locked them away from their intellectual curiosity. And shut up. So the idea for me in my education was to send me to a school that had open classrooms, which was, imagine this. Here's what it was. Oh, the other thing about the school was one half of the school was gigantic floor to ceiling windows. So you could see outside, for those of us who were prone to daydreaming, you might want to close them drapes and get the kids focused on the math that's going on. But no, leave the windows open so they can daydream. Open classrooms were like just a giant undeveloped space in the middle of the school structure. And that giant space would be turned into like 10 individual classrooms, separated only by like chalkboards and in some cases curtains. It was awful. Like, it was so stupid. It was like, children need to have stimulation while learning. No, they need to be focused on what they're learning. You know what? I got stimulation. You know, my stimulation was spitballs, like 3 classes away. Seeing if you could hit your friend in 3 classes away, because now there were no walls. Now I could see my friend screwing around over there. It was terrible. Hippies, they ruined our education. Gen X, we were gerbils. They don't do that anymore. I noticed my kid had doors and walls, and they drew the curtains so he couldn't be distracted while learning. My kid's a genius. More on my kid in a minute. So it was on a day like this, at a school like that, where I just vividly recall about 10 o'clock in the morning during a thunderstorm, just gazing out the window and going, yeah, this is my jam. This is my speed. This is my climate. So anyway, I'm having a nice day, a nice melancholy day, a melancholic theme day. What do you want? The dog is driving me nuts. The dog is, I don't know if it's the rain. She wants to go out. I'm going to get up for a second. I'm going to let the dog out of the room, okay? Because her stomach has been making noises, and I think something could happen. So she needs to have access to the dog run while we're doing this show. All right, hold on. Let me let her out. I'm going to let her out. I'm making an exception for you today. Normally, I make you sit it out, but I heard your stomach making those noises. Hold on. I'm not sure. Okay. What this means is we will hear her downstairs barking at absolutely everything that happens in the front of the house. So let's not be distracted by that. All right. Got to fix my blanket. Witch Kitty hanging out with us. They're the hottest band in Northern California, don't you know? He says he misses these kinds of days. They're just rainy ass mid-morning, just thunderstorms. Jen Hernandez says my elementary school had the open floor plan. Yeah, Jen, that's why we're stupid. No offense, you're not stupid. I know you. You ain't stupid. I'm stupid. Don't let their creative sides be stifled by the walls. And I'm like, no, look, there was a time for my creative side, but not in math class. Not when I was supposed to be learning punctuation, which I still can't do. Why? Because I was probably daydreaming out a giant window watching airplanes in the sky. Draw those curtains. I don't think they were necessarily seeking to destroy our abilities to concentrate an entire generation. I don't think that's what they were seeking. But it happened, Doesn't matter, though. Today's kids, they really can't concentrate because of the phones and stuff. So let me tell you what happened to me last night before we get started with today's rant. I had one of them full-fledged parental anxiety attacks. Oh, man. So I get the call last night from my son's mom. I get the call. I answer it. What's up? We're at the hospital. Oh, man. Wait, what? What do you mean you're at the hospital? We're at the hospital. Mason, my 15-year-old son, Mason got hurt at practice. And I'm like, all right. So I'm thinking, oh, geez, okay, he got hurt. He didn't limp off. He got hurt. He's in the hospital. I'm like, head injury. This is a head injury. That's, everything else. It was a head injury, concussion protocol. My son, apparently he walked me through what happened, which is good. And I didn't even really care what happened. I just wanted to hear how he could articulate, what it was that happened, what his memory was of it. And he was fine, which is great because head injuries are scary. And that's, the one thing, look, I'm going to tell you right now, it sucks being the father of an offensive lineman when compared to maybe what fathers of quarterbacks or linebackers or edge rushers or wide receivers get to experience, right? We don't get to experience all that much. What we get off on is domination, right? Our kid, every single dominate that guy. That's what we get off on. That becomes our way to watch the games and enjoy the games like everybody else. But man, it is brutal. It is really brutal. And my kid, if I do dare say, is a big hitter. He's a big hitter. And what happened was he was explaining to me, he was blocking my assignment. He's such a football meathead. But he's like, so, It's a 5-3-6 run scheme. So what I got to do in that situation is my responsibility, one, is going to be the guard. So I was focused on the right. He's going into all like the meathead football stuff. Basically, what happened was a linebacker blitzed. And he turned too late to pick him up, and he just got helmet to helmet, clonk, clonk, got knocked unconscious. Briefly, I think dizzy, then woozy. Then headache immediately followed, seeing stars, all that stuff, tingly hands, tingly feet. Whoa. Okay. So now he's going to the hospital. So I get that call, and his mom is great. His mom, geez, man. I told her flat out, I go, thank God you're one of those moms who takes head injuries seriously. She's like, oh, no. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, just to be clear, they sent him home. He went home after practice, but he was complaining of all this stuff. So she takes him immediately. He has the CT scan, whatever it is. The whole thing, I got to say, it only took about 2.5 hours from the time I was informed to the time that we were told that he was okay. And he was okay. Turned out to be okay. They said minor concussion. He's now, got to do. We're going to find out exactly what the Texas high school concussion protocol looks like, because he's now got to go into that, which is good. It's not good. Here's the concern. This happened going into his, sophomore year. He played his freshman year last year. He's going into his sophomore year. And it's on his record, and not only on his record, but as a father, he's just kind of young. Here's the fucking dog. Yeah. There must be a squirrel on the yard. That's just going nuts. Yeah, no, there's nothing out there. That's just her reacting. We hear ya. Good job. So he gets the CTE scan, or I don't know what it's called. Not CTE. That's the disease, right? That we're all concerned about. Gets the whatever head scan. They put him through the thing. They're looking for the stuff, and he checks out. Everything is great. We couldn't be happier. Thank God. But I was talking to his Uncle E this morning, telling him about it. And Uncle E used to own a bunch of imaging centers where they do these kinds of brain scans and stuff like that. And he told me something else that was pretty good news. He's like, well, they cleared him and everything, and they took all that. He goes, guess what else he doesn't have? I'm like, what? He doesn't have brain tumor. He doesn't have blood clots. He doesn't have anything. He's like, his brain must be okay. And I'm like, all right, that's good. Of all the things a parent worries about with their kid, the things with the little kids and all of that, abduction, all that. I can get rid of that. I'm pretty sure that my 15-year-old offensive Texas high school football lineman could kick the shit out of anybody that would try to abduct him. So I'm not worried about that. But, you always worry about the cancer and tumors. That never goes away. That never goes away for any of us. So that was good. So it was a fitful night of sleep. His mom, who was just amazing, probably waking him up every 2 hours, just to make sure you okay, you wake up. So, and then I tossed and turned all night until I talked to him this morning. He stayed home from school, which I suppose is his right. I think as a parent, regardless of the severity, if you are in a hospital emergency room at 8 p.m., I think you have a right to call in sick to school the next day. So he's probably just eating cereal and watching YouTube and recovering. But that was scary. Frank is in the chat room. Frank Ben. My eyes are so bad. Frank Ben. We'll call him Frankie B. Frankie B. Keep those squirrels in the trees where they belong. I agree, Frankie B. I agree. I just wish the dog didn't go on squirrel patrol during the live stream. Frankie. The original Frankie says, sorry to hear about your son. Nah, he's fine. He's at this point, I think he's in the milking stage of, getting catered to, and, only getting out of bed for stuff that he wants to do. Yeah, I think that's what's going on right now, but he'll be fine. Thank you, April. Adam is here. Hi, Adam. Fast Outdoor checking in. Let's see. Who else do we have in the chat room that I need to say hi to? Come one, come all. Pull up a chair. We're about to start the rant. We've got James, as I said, Witch Kitty. Albert's here. Big Al. I don't even know if he's big. He's not big. He's actually not big. Chuckles, April, Peter, Jeff Ballard, live from the cornfields in Iowa, and Barney, of course, going all the way back. All right, looks like everybody's accounted for. What do you say we get started with today's high noon rant? I am Pugs Moran. It is the 16th day of the year. 16th day of the month. The month is May. The year is 2024. Okay. I had to work my way through that a little bit, but I figured it out. May 16th. That's what today. Oh, I'm gonna kill that dog. No, I'm not literally gonna kill her, Peter. People know I love her. But I'm gonna give her a very stern talking to, and I may even take my hand and grab her neck hard, because that's how you kind of show you're dominant. Stop it! Oh, and the TV isn't working. Look at this. Everything is going to hell in a handbasket right before our eyes. I need a drink and I need to recoup. Here's what we're going to do. We're just going to operate today's show. Special rules. Those rules are we're just going to ignore the dog. I'm not going to be distracted by it. I can't allow that to happen. All right, May 16th is the 137th day of the year. There's 229 more of these until the end of the year. What do you say we get started with quarter one? We call these quarters, we call quarter one anyway, antecedently on this day. Antecedently on this day, a fancy way of saying this day in history. I cherry pick events from the past and we rant about them for a little bit, like this one. Antecedently on this day in 1770, a 14-year-old Marie Antoinette marries a 15-year-old Louis Auguste, who later becomes the King of France. 14 and 15, highest echelons of civilized society thought this was okay. On this day, antecedently in 1842, the first major wagon train heading for the Pacific Northwest was set out on the Oregon Trail, left from Elm Grove, Missouri, with 100 pioneers. They all died. They all, right? Probably. I don't know. I'm not stating as fact that they all died. I'm just sure. Well, we know that they all did, in fact, die. It was like 1842. But I'm pretty sure that, how many think made it back? 100 people. How many people do you think made it to the destination? What was the attrition rate on wagon trains? Like, what can we expect? If I head out there with 4 kids, how many are going to come back? Which one, are they all going to die from scarlet fever or something? Rough times, man. The good old days or rough times, you decide. Antecedently on this day in 1918, the Sedition Act of 1918 is passed by the United States Congress, making criticism of the government during wartime an imprisonable offense. All right, so think about that for a minute. The Sedition Act of 1918. So we're in a representative democracy where we have freedom to speak truth to power, which means if we don't like something that our government is doing, we are emboldened by the Constitution of the United States to be allowed to go, hey, we don't like that, to do it publicly, to say it, to verbalize it. We don't have the right to take any sort of violent or aggressive action. That's illegal. But we certainly have the freedom of speech. And in 1918, at the offset of I think it was for us, World War I, we decided, the government, the Congress, a whole bunch of them assholes from that point, they got together and they said, you know what, if anybody says that we shouldn't be going to war here, we need to make that illegal. We need to make an amendment to the Constitution. That's it. So every time somebody tells you something that Trump does or Biden does, and they try to make it seem like it is unprecedented, nothing is unprecedented. The human American male politician has always been a corrupt and awful person who had extreme difficulty interpreting the intent of our founding fathers and the Constitution and the amendments that are there. It's always been the fact. Made it illegal. Made it an amendment to the Constitution. They passed it, Congress, that you can't talk about your opposition to a war that your elected government has engaged in America. Of course, it was like immediately repealed because enough people were like, wait a second, that's not, but it did initially pass. Think about that. Now, there was talk about that There was talk about that, a bunch of idiots were, the Sedition Act of 1918 is why Donald Trump needs to be. It's like, yeah, well, that was a law that was passed and it was immediately repealed. So stop it, Sedition Act. We know that's a bad one. We know that one is wrong. We also heard about the Sedition Act of 1918 during the uproar of the Iraq War with the Dixie Chicks. Back in 1918, they made a law. Yeah, they made a really embarrassing law. One of the most embarrassing laws ever passed by a sitting United States Congress, and it was repealed immediately because they went, wait a second, before anybody could even challenge it to the Supreme Court, because that would have gone to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court would have hopefully been like, yeah, this is a violation of the First Amendment, your freedom of speech. You have to be able to say, I don't like the war my government is waging in my name. You have to be allowed to do that. Otherwise, we're just a dictatorship. Antecedently, on this day in 1988, let's jump ahead. Today was the day that the Surgeon General of these here United States, 1988, decided that cigarettes pretty addictive. That's right. It was announced, C. Everett Koop, that the addictive properties of nicotine are similar to those of heroin and cocaine. For years, man, like 40, 50 years, everybody, just one new piece of evidence after another that cigarette smoking was bad for you. And because the cigarette lobby had so much money and because everybody smoked 3 packs a day, they were able to stave that off for half a century before finally it was like, yeah, somebody invented something that was safer, the vaping method, I guess. But now even that's not safe. Yeah, it is. It's way safer. Anyway, that's what money does. Money corrupts government. The C. Everett Koop in 88, he said, nicotine, we should all admit that nicotine is pretty damn addictive. You ever seen someone try to quit smoking? Yeah, it's really addictive. I've been addicted to nicotine since I'm 16 years old. Started chewing tobacco. Now I use these nicotine patches. Nicotine sucks. Nicotine is like the worst. Caffeine, I was able to kick caffeine like that. Nicotine, can't. And I never smoked. I've never smoked. It's always been chewing tobacco and now these little pouches that I prefer because there's no spitting. They're far more socially acceptable. Anyway, it was on this day the Surgeon General said that nicotine was as addictive as cocaine and heroin. Antecedently on this day in 1991, Queen Elizabeth II of these United Kingdoms, she addressed a joint session of the United States Congress. She is the first British monarch to address the U.S. Congress ever. I should hope so. And even that was just symbolic because she was just a figurehead. Excuse me. Nope, not going to do hiccups. Let's do birthdays. Want 'em. They say it's their birthday. They say it's their birthday. We're not going to question them on that. Born on this day in 1905, Henry Fonda, American icon and a shit father. Another shit father. You know how I know Henry Fonda was a shit father? Well, there was all this stuff with his kids growing up. Like when Peter Fonda and when Jane Fonda, when they were young actors and actresses, there was all this, they're embarrassing their father. There was certainly a rebellious streak from his kids, Nepo babies for sure. And then, there was all this talk about, how distant Jane had become from her father and how Peter hadn't spoken to his father throughout the entire 1970s. And it was when Jane and Henry did On Golden Pond together that they finally were able to reconcile. Anyway, a whole bunch of things. Henry Fonda, great actor, beloved American icon, trusted that guy, a Tom Hanks type for sure, a Paul Rudd type. But shit dad. Now, how do I know this for absolutely sure? Because I interviewed Peter Fonda because I had Peter Fonda in studio with us once, and I don't even know what it was about, but it was so cool because Peter Fonda was awesome. This is obviously before he died. No, you talked to him when he was a corpse. He came in and he was just so free, and it was like a real free range conversation. He was absolutely in town promoting something. I think it may have been like a special anniversary of Easy Rider or something. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about that, but what we did get into was we got into his family and what it was like being Peter Fonda in the 1960s, the son of Henry Fonda. We got into that a lot. And Peter Fonda, without flinching, just flat out told some stories about his father, Henry Fonda. Remember, not flattering. That would make you go, oh. And I probably even said it this way to him, but your dad's a dick. Your dad sounds like a dick, like just mean things. He didn't say abusive, but a lot of like really mentally abusive, and he was an alcoholic. So he was drunk. Berating his kids. Yeah. Anyway, happy birthday, Henry Fonda. Your son told me some shit about you on live radio in Dallas. Born on this day in 1919. Happy birthday, Lee Liberace. I got a funny Liberace story. So, I don't know, it was a couple weeks back. So my son and I were hanging out and we were flipping through YouTube. And there was a Liberace like montage of Liberace. And I go, wait, you got to stop. So he stops on it. And I say, look at that dude. And it's just a big thing of Liberace on stage in Vegas, right? You can picture it. I go, look at that dude. And I go, you know, that dude was super famous. And he goes, and he's trying to pronounce it. I go, no, it's Liberace. Liberace. I go, he was an amazing piano player, though. He's a great piano player. He could really jam out. And my kid, I knew that would get my kid. And he's like, oh, okay. So he clicks on it. And it's Liberace. It's a montage of like Liberace stuff from, his Vegas shows. And it's all very opulent and, and him talking to the audience, doing that whole thing. And I'm sitting there and we're watching it. And my kid goes, wow, he's really flamboyant, isn't he? And I'm like, yeah, he was. And I go, dude, do you know that absolutely nobody knew that guy was gay? My 15, or at this point, I think he was probably 14. My 14-year-old son is like, what? I go, yeah, it wasn't even an option. It wasn't like nobody looked at Liberace and went, that dude's gay. I mean, some people did, but the vast majority of people looked at that and went, I wonder why he's not married. A good-looking guy like that. My son thought that was hysterical. Happy birthday, Liberace. I mean, come on, it's so obvious. Hindsight being what it is. Born on this day in 1928, Billy Martin. Billy Ball. Man, I loved Billy Martin growing up. I loved Billy Martin growing up because my grandfather loved Billy Martin growing up. My grandfather was a diehard New York Yankee fan, and he loved everything about Billy Martin. I came to realize after worshiping Billy Martin as the greatest manager of all time until I was like, 25 or something, and then really got into baseball history. I realized that Billy wasn't the greatest manager of all time. He was certainly one of baseball's greatest characters of all time. What Billy was, and I think a really good modern example of what Billy Martin was, is Ozzie Guillen. Ozzie Guillen is a tremendous manager of a baseball club in the first 2 years. If he doesn't win you a World Series in the first 2 years, his personality is going to become untenable within the ball club, and he's going to have to go. That's what Billy Martin was. Billy Martin won some World Series, the A's with zero budget. Why? Because Billy Martin could fire players up. Billy Martin was an ultra competitor. Billy Martin was like a mid-tier professional infielder. Wasn't a star. But because of the way he played, he was on Yankees teams that won multiple World Series in the 1960s and became a Yankee icon to the fans. He could fire you up. He had a little of that Rob Dibble in him. He had a little bit of that. Who else? Who was that? Who's the guy that sucks? Lenny Dykstra. You got a little bit of that. Got a little Ozzie Guillen in him. Happy birthday, Billy Martin. He died the way he lived, drunk and driving. Born on this day in 1944, Danny Trejo. God love Danny Trejo. Yesterday, I was on WBAP with our friend James Parker, the James Parker Show, afternoons on WBAP 93.3 here in Dallas, Fort Worth. I was doing my weekly entertainment report, and we were given an update on the entertainment report concerning Steve Buscemi, and I unveiled a group of actors. You know how I like to group my actors, what with my belief in the Hollywood clone system and all. I like to group my actors, and I revealed to James my sickly six. They are the 6 actors who I believe are the only ugly actors, the only ugly male actors allowed in Hollywood. There's only room for 6 of them. Everybody else has to be, hot in some way, shape, or form. Even if it's nerdy hot, dad bod hot, whatever, they got to be hot. But there is room for some ugly actors. Steve Buscemi is, of course, one of the sickly six. Who else? Paul Giamatti is one of the sickly six. Willem Dafoe is certainly one of the sickly six. But also Danny Trejo. Danny Trejo is one of the sickly six for sure. Who else was in the sickly six? Buscemi, Giamatti, Dafoe, Trejo. Was it Jonah Hill? I think it was Jonah Hill. But Jonah Hill's kind of like morphing. We're not sure about him. I'm not sure. Another one in the sickly six is Mr. Robot, the dude who played Freddie Mercury. He's allowed in. He's ugly. But Danny Trejo, he's the big muscle scary guy in the sickly six. It's like he's like, women are like, would you? You know, maybe. I don't know. Danny Trejo, born on this day in 1944. Big scary Mexican actor. Always plays a scary, but kind of cool. That's it. That's his role. We need somebody who's going to be really scary, but kind of cool. That's Danny Trejo. Born on this day in 1955. Speaking of the sickly six and me putting actors and actresses into categories because of my firm belief that there is and has been a fully functioning Hollywood clone factory happening right in our midst. I believe in that conspiracy. Maybe because I'm the one who created it. I don't know, but it's true. So we talked about the sickly six, the six ugly actors that Hollywood allows. Now we're going to go straight into one of the great clone factory failures. This woman is celebrating a birthday today. She was a massive star. She was as big a movie star as Hollywood had ever produced. And then poof, gone, never to be heard from again. I mean, maybe in little tiny role, but never at the level that she had achieved. Her name was Deborah Winger. Deborah Winger! What happened to Deborah Winger? Well, I'm going to tell you a story about what happened to Deborah Winger. You don't fuck with the clone factory. You don't screw around with... So Deborah Winger became a massive star. She wasn't supposed to be a massive star. She had gone from being the little sister of Linda Carter on TV's Wonder Woman. Yeah, that's where Deborah Winger started. She played Linda Carter's little sister, little wonder sister, whatever. Deborah Winger, that's where she went from. She went from there to being the star of like Officer and a Gentleman, Urban Cowboy. I don't know what's the one where she dies? There's a sad one where she dies. My point is this: she was massive. Deborah Winger came out of nowhere, a lot of power. Now, I don't know if Deborah Winger was a clone. As a matter of fact, I think Deborah Winger is organic. I think Deborah Winger, and this is why she had to disappear. I think Deborah Winger is a one of a kind. I don't know what other she fits into, but she popped out of nowhere. She started mouthing off. She became powerful, and Hollywood went, we don't need to put up with you, and we don't like dealing with you organic human actresses anyway. So they killed her career, and what they did was they rushed into production a Deborah Winger clone, and that clone was, of course, the wildly failed Sean Young, the Sean Young model. Oh, you guys think I'm kidding? All right. Well, yeah, you think I'm kidding. Okay. Have you ever seen Sean Young and Deborah Winger in the same room? No, of course you haven't, because they sent Deborah Winger to some, I don't know, camp somewhere where she's living out the rest of her days like a happy dog. Sean Young was rolled out in the wake of the sidelining of Deborah Winger by Hollywood. Deborah Winger can't work anymore, but we need somebody who fills that. So they went quickly into the lab and they created the Sean Young. They rushed her into production. They put her out into the world. They made her a bit of a star. And then guess what? She went nuts. She went Margot Kidder nuts, Sean Young. Meanwhile, Deborah Winger's like, what do you mean I'm not getting any roles anymore? Here, let me show you these people. These people are, I'll give you, first I'll show you Deborah Winger, okay? Just so we know, because she's the birthday girl. Anyway, the point is this. Deborah Wingers. The point is this. They rushed Sean Young into production because, Deborah Winger became untenable as a star. Here she is. Here's Deborah Winger. She was cute. All right, so here we go. Show you this image of Deborah Winger. So this is the human. This is Deborah Winger is a human organic actress, and she achieved fame outside the clone system and then disappeared. Nobody heard from her again. Okay, now let me see. We go to Sean Young. Get us some Sean Young here. Let's see. Here's the thing. I can't believe that there are no side-by-sides. There should be, because they're the same person. Sean Young did all kinds of crazy stuff. Just ask James Woods. What? So there's no hot young Sean Young pictures? Just crazy old Sean Young? Really? That's what we got to do? All right. Here's Sean Young. That's Sean Young today. Let me see if we can find some Sean Young. Remember what Deborah Winger looked like? All right. There's Sean Young. She looks just like Deborah Winger. Same birthday. Okay. Hot. Sean Young. Young. There it is. That's Deborah. That's the Deborah Winger clone. And the clone factory was embarrassed. They had to discontinue the use, and we haven't seen an actress like Deborah Winger or Sean Young since, even though they were both proven to be box office palatable. People liked them at the box office. Sean Young went crazy. Sean Young went crazy, and they had to shelve that entire line. You can check my math on all of this. Happy birthday, Deborah Winger. Nobody knows where you are. You're out there with Shelly Miskovich somewhere. Born on this day in 1965. Happy birthday to the one that's cashing the checks, that's for sure, but nobody remembers that he was a part of one of the biggest bands ever. Chris Novoselic, the bass player from Nirvana. That's right, he's the other guy. He's not the guy that's dead, and he's not the guy that formed Foo Fighters. He's the other guy. Chris Novoselic. Born on this day in 1965. Born on this day in 1966. Janet Jackson. Miss Jackson, if you're nasty. Okay. I think Janet Jackson might be, if I had to think about this really, I think Janet Jackson is probably the most famous person I've ever been in the same room with. And I understand that that's relative to who you attribute greater fame to, right? So, I've been in a room with like presidents, but when we were at the Grammys one year, Janet Jackson came through. We didn't get to interview her, but it sucked. But she was like moving through this room, and it's like the Pope. I'd have to be in a room with the Pope, I guess, to see this this was in a room with all kinds of celebrities, rock stars, Grammy nominees, celebrities were everywhere, and they were just milling about and sitting down with people with microphones and doing interviews. That's what this was. But when Janet Jackson showed up, man, it was like a whole different thing. It's like there was an announcement and everybody cleared the way. And I'm not talking about it was her demanding this. I'm like, this is what was needed, because absolutely everybody was like, is Janet here yet? Is Janet coming? Janet coming. Ooh, is Janet coming? Never seen anything like that. Janet Jackson, happy birthday. It was obvious she was the biggest star in the room, in a room filled with stars. Happy birthday, Janet Jackson. Born on this day in 1966. Born on this day in 1973. Tori Spelling. Dan Nepo baby. Always resented Tori Spelling's story about how she got 90210. She her story is her story. Her dad, of course, is Aaron Spelling, the creator and the boss of the show. And she always claimed, my dad didn't even know that I was going up for it. I'm like, oh, that's great. So you didn't use your dad didn't even know. Your dad was not aware. Your dad, who was producing like 50 TV shows and probably spoke to you guys for a total of 20 minutes a week. Your dad didn't know that you were going up for it. Tori Spelling on the call sheet. Gee, I'm wondering if any of those people that your dad entrusted to be the producers and the casting agents, I wonder if any of those people had met you before, like, I don't know, at their boss's backyard parties or whatever. I wonder if any of those people knew that when Tori Spelling came in, they were like, oh, hi, Tori. Are you here to see your dad? No. So shut your mouth, Tori Spelling, about how your dad didn't know. Yeah, you have the same last name. And I am certain that everyone who worked for him during the casting process of 90210 knew exactly who you were. I never even told my dad. My dad was shocked. Your dad was shocked when what? They cast his daughter without even thinking twice about it. Oh, she was perfect. And she was fine. Who'd she play? Donna? Who'd she play? Donna Martin, right? Isn't that who she was? She was fine, but it was still nepotism. And you don't get to say, my dad didn't even know, because we're not that stupid. Other people did, and you got the same last name. You're not like Nick Cage, who didn't want to go on auditions as Nicholas Coppola, because that's his real last name, Coppola, is Francis Ford Coppola's nephew. He didn't want to do that, so he changed his name to, Nick Cage instead of Nick Coppola. Well, it wasn't Charlie Sheen. Charlie. Wait, no, it was Charlie. Well, Emilio Estevez is the one who didn't go into acting as Emilio Sheen. No, he didn't want people to know his dad was Martin Sheen. He went back to the original family name, Estevez. It was Charlie Sheen who went, I'm taking whatever shortcuts available to me. And he's probably right to have done it. So whatever. Some people are born with things. Tori Spelling, happy birthday, girl. Speaking of people being born with things, happy birthday, Megan Fox, born on this day in 86. Megan Fox was born with things. They were all aesthetic because she's a terrible actress, and the only reason that she's famous is because she is so beautiful, and I think it's undeniable that Megan Fox is beautiful, but she is a terrible actress. That's okay. You were born with things like beauty. Megan Fox, born on this day in 1986. All right, that's going to do it for the birthdays. Let's move into the deads. These are the people who've died. These are the people who've died. Let's open up the books and decide whether or not they've gone to heaven or hell. Dead on this day in 1943. All right, here's the difficult one. Can't believe on past May the 16th, I haven't listed this, but it showed up today, so it's history, folks. On this day in 1943, a black Labrador retriever belonging to Wing Command of the Royal Air Force and the mascot of the 617 Squadron dies. Black Labrador. This is right off Wikipedia. The Black Labrador's name is the full-on N-word. Hard R and all. The Black Lab's name was the N-word. That poor dog. First of all dogs go to heaven, and dog was stricken with that name. That's not a good name. He's going to heaven. We're putting N-word, the Black Labrador, war dog. We're putting N-word in heaven. Dead on this day in 1957. Bum 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 bum. Elliot Ness, the dude who took down Al Capone, or so they'd have us believe. It was a whole bunch of stuff. But the Untouchables, Elliot Ness, where do we put him, huh? He was probably a drunk, probably a wife abuser. I don't know, but I didn't hear that stuff. So we're putting Elliot Ness in heaven. Great American lawman. Dead on this day in 1990, Sammy Davis Jr. Sammy, man. Well, that was a big imitation you had to do between 1985 and 1995. You had to be able to do a Sammy Davis Jr. in that time chunk. If you couldn't, you just weren't funny. Was replaced, of course, by the Wayne and Garth, to be followed by the Austin Powers. But for a while, it was all Sammy. And Fernando. It was also another friend. You look marvelous. It was that guy, too. Sammy Davis Jr. was an icon of American entertainment. He was a groundbreaker. He was a glass ceiling shatterer, and he was an incredibly talented dude. I mean, I don't know what you know of Sammy Davis Jr., because I think most of us in Gen X, what we know is like 60 years plus Sammy Davis Jr. But I would implore any of you, and I have a bit of a fascination with the Rat Pack in particular. So I've seen and I understand the magnitude and the charisma of all the members of the Rat Pack. But Sammy Davis Jr. was probably the most talented, and it's not even close. First of all, Sammy Davis could sing beautifully. He had a very sort of way but he sang beautifully. Sammy Davis Jr. is probably, sorry, Usher and Michael Jackson, probably the greatest dancer of all time. Have you ever seen Sammy Davis Jr. as a 20-year-old with the Will Maston Trio? The Will Maston Trio is what made him a star. The Will Maston Trio was his uncle, Will Maston, and his father, Sammy Davis Sr., and then Sammy Davis Jr. was sort of the Michael Jackson of the group. He was amazing as a dancer. And then all of the shit that he went through in America at the time that Come on. And he was on Archie Bunker. He squared up with Archie Bunker on All in the Family. Sammy Davis is going to heaven. He liked his hot, sexy Swedish white women, though. That was a problem in 1960s America. Let me tell you. He took one for every NBA player alive today that, likes a 6-foot blonde. That was Sammy. Sammy is the one who went through that wall first. Well, I mean, there were a whole bunch of heavyweight champion boxers from past that went through that wall and got marched right into jail for it. But as far as like the guys that, got away with it and sort of normalized it, Sammy Davis. As a matter of fact, Sammy Davis Jr., after working tirelessly for JFK, all the Rat Packers worked to elect JFK, but Sammy Davis went above and beyond, and all of the Rat Packers were given like prime seating at JFK's inauguration, except for Sammy Davis Jr. You know why? Because Sammy Davis Jr., and remember, this is the Kennedy family now. Now, this might be just Joe Kennedy, but this is the Kennedys. They banned Sammy Davis Jr. from showing up because he had a white wife. Yep, I didn't want the trouble. It was the inauguration of JFK, and they didn't want that issue to be talked about, and they didn't want... So, sorry, Sammy. Thank you for all the hard work, but you're going to have to sit home. Sammy Davis Jr. is going to heaven. Dead on this day in 1990, preemptively, he's going to heaven. Jim Henson of the Muppets. Come on. What, you think me, Gen X? You think I'm not going to put Jim Henson of the Muppets in heaven? That dude's pretty important to a lot of laughs in my life. Cool as he was cool. Jim Henson was cool, man. So whether it's Sesame Street and then branching off into the Muppets. Do you know how important a player? I was talking the other day about Carol Burnett and about the influence of Tim Conway and the Carol Burnett Show as being an incredibly early influence on my understanding of comedy. Muppets are right there with them, man. The Muppets are right there. That shit was funny. The Muppet Show, if you were 8 years old, watching the Muppet Show on Saturday, it used to come on at 6:30. I mean, and also, man, let me brag a little bit because I am Gen X. First generation Muppet right here. First generation. I don't know what the Muppets would go on to be in the 80s and in the 90s, but I can tell you the first generation Muppets had an edge. First generation Muppets were created by a bunch of dudes on LSD. Jim Henson is going to heaven. Jim Henson, dead on this day in 1990. Dead on this day in 2010, Ronnie James Dio. Holy diver! The devil's coming for ya. Ronnie James Dio. A couple things about Ronnie James Dio. Hold on, let me click on this just to make sure, because I love Ronnie James Dio. I find him to be one of the most fascinating characters. Okay, so Ronnie James Dio, look, metal icon, that voice, right? As good as anything. I mean, I always thought, because of the way Ronnie James Dio carried himself, I just always assumed he was British because he was tiny, and we knew that British rock stars were tiny. That dude's like from Houston or something. He's like from, and then I saw, I think there was a Ronnie James Dio doc. I didn't get all the way through it because it became a bit absurd, but there was like a doc, and this dude, like in modern times, is he dead? Hold on. Yeah, he died. He died in 2010. All right. So this doc was obviously at the end of his life, but he had a throne in his living room, and he was still doing the whole 80s medieval rock star thing with, I'm the king, Ronnie James Dio. He's hysterical, but I think he's got to go to hell. I mean, he replaced Ozzy. Look, the guy's got his place in, rock and roll heaven, but not in actual heaven. All of that devil stuff. Ronnie James Dio, you were flirting with the devil, and guess what? That bill has to be paid, and it's paid upon your death. Ronnie James Dio. Dead on this day in 2013. Here's a guy. We're going to put him in heaven, and here's why we're going to put him in heaven, because people made fun of him just because of his name. Do you remember the race car driver, Dick Trickle? Dick Trickle. The dude's name was Dick Trickle. He died on this day, 2013. We're going to put him in heaven. Go his whole life with a name like Dick Trickle. That couldn't have been easy, man. Okay, there you go. That's going to do it, folks. Thank you. Those are the first 3 quarters of today's show. Now it's time for us to get into quarter 4, which, of course, we all know are the hot topics, current events, and everything else that we need to discuss to get you all prepped up on all the good stuff you need to know about today. But first, let me remind you that this show is run on your gratuities. We do not have an executive producer of today's show. Every day we have an executive producer, and that person is the person who tipped the most the day before. Well, unfortunately, we didn't get any yesterday. So I would encourage you to make sure that this show continues on. Drop a little something if you can, just as you're passing by. Treat me like I'm your bartender. Treat me your pizza delivery guy, your Uber driver, whatever it is. But if you're enjoying this kind of talk radio, non-divisive, non-political, just the world as seen through somebody who's trying to apply a filter of common sense and working class logic. That's what this is. So if you can support that in any way, shape, or form, because it doesn't seem like AM Talk Radio wants any part of that, drop a little something in the tip jar, and it would be appreciated. Okay. Going to leave that up now, the Cash App and the Venmo, if anybody wants to help out. But we're going to move on to quarter 4. These are all the things that are happening in the world today, the big stories we need to talk about. How about this one? Let's talk about the Trump trial. What's the latest? Oh, we're in a commercial. We're in a commercial right now. So, the Trump trial. Apparently, Michael Cohen is still being cross-examined by the defense, Trump's team. And apparently, he screwed up big time. Okay, so Michael Cohen kind of lied. Yeah, we know he lied. And they nailed him like Trump's team. It was looking bad for Trump's team yesterday. Got to be honest with you. Yesterday, everybody's like, this is over. This is a slam dunk. There is no reasonable doubt now. And then today, Team Trump, they cross-examine Michael Cohen again, and they catch him in a lie about a text to somebody and whatever, but they're like, you lied. This is a lie, because they produced evidence that what he testified to just 2 days ago was not true. And Michael Cohen, see, this is what happens when you get into bed with rats. Michael Cohen's a rat. Michael Cohen's always been a rat. Michael Cohen may have just completely, through his own duplicitous nature, he may have just completely, inadvertently, but completely cast a doubt on everything that he said. So people are pearl clutching. People are like, oh my God, Michael Cohen. But it's because Michael Cohen is a piece of shit. But, this isn't rare. I mean, when you're going after people, sometimes you have to put people on the stand who are in business with that person. And a lot of times the person you put on stand is also a scuzzy person because they were in business. What do you think people who do scuzzy business things are in business with? My God. But still, it doesn't look good. You can't, Michael Cohen, just rat-faced weirdo. Anyway, that's the Trump trial. It's going on today. I don't know how much longer it's going to go on. But this is not good. This was not good what happened today. Michael Cohen lying about text messages to Keith Schiller, who is Trump's man. People are worried. All right, moving on. Here, how about some good news? We like to celebrate the rich people getting richer. Rich people getting rich. Oh my God, are they doing a jig? They're dancing it up on Wall Street. Stocks for the first time in history. It crossed it. It crossed the mythical. This is basically Columbus making a wrong turn and discovering the new world. They have discovered the mythical 40K. That's right. The stock market crossed over the 40,000 mark today. Apparently that's never happened before. All 3 major stock indexes close at record highs as inflation slows down. Yeah, right. Inflation slows down. I said yesterday gas was looking better, but I don't know. Prices of the shit that I buy seems to be the same. And dare I say, going up. Cheese went up. Cheese went up like 5 cents. Ugh. Each of the major U.S. stock indexes closed Wednesday at record highs after new federal data showed inflation was showing down. Disregard that bullshit. The Dow Jones Industrial Average. Oh, man. Never mind. Pop-ups. I hate these pop-ups. The Dow Jones Industrial Average and S&P 500, as well as NASDAQ Composite, all rallied Wednesday after the Labor Department, blah, 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 Anyway, the big news of today is that it closed yesterday at 39,908, and then this morning it went over 40,000. People getting rich. So here's the thing about that, and this is how I put it into perspective because I'm no great stock market whiz. But I can remember during the period of American economic strain we'll call the quantitative ease days, back when the mortgage industry exploded, 2008, 2009, the stock market had been upward around 20 or at 20 grand. It was cooking, tech bubble and all of that. They were at 20, cooking. Tech, mortgage, tech. They were around 20K on the Dow Jones. When all that went to hell, we had dropped all the way down to like 7K. And I vividly recall, and I don't remember who it was, but it was a panel of economic dudes, smart economists. And I can remember back in around 2009, 2010, the question that was posed to them, when do you think America will be okay? And they all agreed that once the stock market settled at 10,000, that would be a sign that the recovery is here and that we have now got stability and we can start going again. And go did we. 40K now. Back then it was only 20. We're at 40K now. So no matter what your struggles have been, no matter how difficult it's been for you with, remortgaging your house, and no matter, just take solace in knowing that the rich people on Wall Street, they have doubled and tripled their wealth in the same period of time. Did you lose your home back in 2009? Are you still bearing the crux to that? Rest assured, the rich people on Wall Street are not. The guys who skated going to jail because they sold your mom's 401k or gambled it away on some bullshit. Those guys, nothing happened to them. In fact, you want to know what happened to them? They are 4 times richer now than they were then. But keep hating trans people. Keep hating your neighbor with the Biden sign. That's what you need to do. All right. Let's talk about some debates. Okay, so the debates are happening. CNN has announced that the very first presidential debate, which was, I don't know what that stunt was yesterday with Biden going, "I'll challenge you." And now we find out that they've been talking about it for weeks behind the scenes. So essentially what happened was they agreed. And then Biden, super early in the morning, probably hours after the Trump team, the Biden team came to an agreement, hours later, they wake up Biden, or he was probably up early because old dudes wake up early. So they wake up Biden and they're like, "You're going to pretend like you're calling him out." And then Biden does that thing. "I challenge you, Donald." And then, of course, because Donald doesn't really know what the fuck is going on, he's distracted by the trial and, Melania being pissed at him and attending his son's graduation. Those are all the things most important. He doesn't know about this happening. So when Biden's thing goes viral and Trump's like, "What? What do I say? What do I do?" That's my Trump. I'm the only person on the planet who doesn't do a Trump imitation. I can't do it. Anyway, so there's going to be a debate. We'll see if they both show up because, that's always the wild card in the era of Trump politics. It could be, he could not show up. He could just decide 45 minutes, "I ain't going," and then weeks and weeks of us going, "Yeah, this is going to be," it's at this point, Trump is as dependable as Axl Rose. Can you remember trying to go to a Guns N' Roses concert in the 1990s? And you're like, "Well, it'd be great if he shows up." Biden and Trump agreed to 2 presidential debates, with the first set for June 27th on CNN. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump have both accepted an invitation from CNN to debate on June the 27th, a historically early showdown that will set the tone for the final months of the 2024 campaign. "I've received and accepted an invitation from CNN for a debate on June the 27th. Over to you, Donald." That was from Biden yesterday. He posted that on X. Later Wednesday morning, both men said they had accepted an invitation from ABC as well to hold a second debate on September the 10th. The news is the latest development, and quickly, who cares? Okay, so we got a debate. So here are the rules. Okay, so we're going to get, who are we getting? We getting on CNN, we're going to get Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. Here's what's interesting about it. Now, for decades, since like the 1980s, I believe, there has been this commission on presidential debates who puts together these debates, and they've always done it their way, and they've ruled with an iron fist. And, they're the ones who say, no, you can't be in the debate. They had a lot of power for a lot of years. They have been completely upended. They were not even consulted in this. This was simply the Trump people and the Biden people. This debate on the 27th will be the earliest that a presidential debate between two. This is before the conventions. They're already going to debate before the is it before? I think it's before the conventions. Anyway, it's crazy. Here's another thing that's going to be crazy about it. They took it away from the Commission on Presidential Debates, and they've changed it up. Guess what they're not going to have, which I think is awesome. Let's level the playing field, baby. No audience. That's right. Just Trump and Biden standing there with two people. There is not going to be any people in the audience going, yeah, like, applauding or Brandon, whatever. None of that nonsense. None of the stuff that, is going to either, which I imagine, embolden former President Trump or completely rattle current President Biden. None of those distractions are going to be there. It's just going to be these two dudes, two old men in a bar arguing, and that is what I want to see. I don't want playing the crowd. Right, people? Right? I don't want that. I want these two guys. Let's see who's sharper. Let's see these two go at it. Let's see who knows more. So I do think that format kind of favors Biden. I think that format, if it's completely controlled by journalists who don't allow Trump to just, do what he does, which is dominate debates by non-traditional means, just blows through all the established rules of debate and just dominates with charisma. That's his thing. If he's not allowed to do that and he's actually forced to talk about these things, I think that there's a great opportunity for Biden to probably come out looking like the better statesman. Whether that translates to anything, I don't know, which is why we don't do politics on this show. So we shall see. But there you have it. That's the latest, the presidential debates. There have been two agreed to, one on CNN, one on ABC. The first one coming up in just a couple of weeks here, about a month from now, a little over a month from now. And then a third has also been mentioned, a potential Fox News debate, a third one even later in the summer, sometime in September. All right, there you have it. That's the news about the presidential debates. That's what I want to see. I really want to see those. I want them to be tonight. Why can't they do it tonight? Podcasters can. Come on, baby. Let's go. Let's have them on. Let's have Trump and Biden show up on some dude's podcast. And why not mine, right? Tomorrow at noon, we'll have Trump and Biden, legitimately. Let's see here. Slovakia is in the news. Again, Slovakia. I mentioned this yesterday. I didn't know Slovakia and Slovenia were two different places. I thought they were just mispronunciations of the same spot. But Slovakia is indeed different than Slovenia. Slovakia is in the European Union. Slovakia is a NATO nation. Slovakia is one of the good guys when we take that 30,000-foot look at the world. Slovakia is our friend, if you are truly American at heart. Slovakia in September, they elected this dude, this Robert Fico. They elected this dude in their free and democratic elections. Slovakia elected this dude who was like, I'm going to do whatever Putin says. Let's return Slovakia to Russia. So, pretty extreme set of values for that part of the world. Not one that we're expected to, understand here in America. That seems very weird. But he's an extremist. He's an extremist who is a puppet to Putin. So that guy was elected, and he's promising things like more anti-Americanism from the official policy. He's talking about, backing away from responsibilities that they have pledged to NATO. They cut off all participation in any kind of arms or aid to Ukraine that most NATO nations are participating in. So he's been a problem. It's like, this guy's a problem. Slovak authorities have charged a man Thursday with attempting to assassinate populist Prime Minister Robert Fico, saying the suspect acted alone in a politically motivated attack that laid bare the extreme polarization that has gripped the small Central European country. Fico, 59 years old, was in serious but stable condition a day after being shot multiple times in the stomach. He referred to the suspect, who was charged with premeditated murder, as a lone wolf. Lone wolf. We always hear that. That's very Hinckley, right? Not Hinckley. That's very Oswald. He is a lone wolf who did not belong to any specific political groups, though he said the attack itself was politically motivated. Fico has long been a divisive figure in Slovakia and beyond, and his return to power last year on a pro-Russian, anti-American message led to even greater worries among fellow European Union and NATO members that he would abandon his country's pro-Western course, particularly on the issue of Ukraine at their greatest time of need. And isn't it a coincidence that we are here at the Ukraine's greatest time of need, and just coincidentally on the very same day, a great enemy of the United States and NATO forces in the way they think, there is an assassination on him committed by someone being described as a lone wolf. Nothing more to investigate. He's a lone wolf. We totally did this, people. Sorry. What do you need? A big Hollywood movie in 15 years to tell you how we did? This is an obvious thing. This is the era. We're going to start seeing more of these. But this is obvious that, the West would benefit, certainly, from this guy being removed from power. He's been trouble within the NATO ranks in the European Union. He's essentially a spy. He's a mole. He's Putin's mole. And as we talked about yesterday, Russia, they've began their advance, their summer invasion, their summer offensive, as they've been teasing for the last few months. They've built up over 500,000 troops right there in the northeast border with Ukraine. They've already advanced across the border. They've taken some of the areas there, but now they are making their move towards Kiev. This is why the $2 billion in U.S. aid had to be approved. This is why Blinken went there with the big giant Publishers Clearinghouse check to go, we support you. This is all happening right now, popping off, as the kids say. And you're telling me it's just a coincidence that the one guy inside NATO who everybody's looking at sideways gets an attempted assassin? Come on! That's us. That's us. And that's how we do business. And you're either uncomfortable with that and you're out there marching and protesting because you're demanding a world that you wish was real, or you're like me, you exist in the real world and we understand that spooks need to exist. Do they do bad things? Yeah. Do they do bad things in the name of a nation whose brand stands for good things? Yeah. I don't know. It's the system we have. Got to pick a side, I suppose. Still glad to be an American. But we did this. We did this. We did this. This is us. Got us written all over it. All right, let's talk about the Pope. Pope gave a big press conference today. I haven't been able to see it because, I'm doing this with y'all. But I'm going to watch the big press conference. Why? Because the Pope holds a worldwide global press conference today. Or actually, maybe it hasn't happened yet. I don't know. Maybe it's going to be a nighttime thing. I don't know. What is the time over there at St. Peter's? Pope going to talk about UFOs. Pope is going to get us all together and he's going to talk about what he thinks about UFOs. And I am told that this Pope is a believer. Is the Pope going to go on record today and, let all the information out of the bag? Because let me tell you something, people. You cannot have one of those trilateral commission, weird 1% cabal puppet masters controlling the world. Can't have any of that without the Pope. If you don't think the Pope's involved in that whole group, you're nuts. The Pope is like in one of the highest chairs because that's the Pope probably started this bullshit like 1,000 years ago. So the Pope knows. Pope knows. If there's anybody on the planet that knows if aliens are real, I'm pretty sure it's the Pope. And Jeremy Corbell. The Pope to host a press conference on aliens and the supernatural. And people are very confused. Not me. I'm not confused. The last time the Vatican held a press conference about aliens and supernatural phenomena was in February of 1978. That was at the height of the Close Encounters thing. But what would tomorrow's event mean for this Pope? All right, let's see. The Vatican has announced the Vatican has announced that it is set to hold a press conference on supernatural phenomenon tomorrow. I don't know if this was yesterday or today. I thought it was happening today, but anyway, won't be distracted. And it will speak on aliens and how it will deal with potential encounters with aliens in the future. They got a plan. If the Pope has a plan for how we're going to deal with aliens, you better believe that aliens are real. Because somebody who knows that shit, if you're the Pope, isn't that like one of the first things you ask? Like when you meet all of these people, tell me something. I guess that's not how the Pope speaks. That's how the old Polish speak. Who's this Pope? Where's this Pope from? It's from South America, right? Portuguese? What does that sound like? I don't know. Anyway, according to a notice on the Vatican's website, it will kick off at noon tomorrow and will feature 3 prominent Vatican members. It's being held to present the new provisions of the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith. For discern, man, Catholics are so wordy. Here is what this is called. Okay, this is why we have acronyms, right? This is what this is being called. The new provisions of the dicastery of the doctrine of the faith for discerning between apparitions and other supernatural phenomena. Hey, that's catchy. That's catchy when you're walking around the hotel and all the different, conference rooms and you see the sign that says, here's what's going on in this room. Here's what's going on. That's going to look really good on that sign. The new provisions of the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith for discerning between apparitions and other supernatural phenomena. Again, Catholic Church. How can someone be so good at branding and then so bad at branding? They got the cross, the crucifix. That's the best branding job ever done in history. Don't tell me about the golden arches. Don't tell me about the Nike swoosh. Tell me about the Catholic crucifix. That's even branched over. That's like regular Christians. They're all wearing the cross. It's being held. Let's see here. Who are the people involved? It will be led by Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandes. Oh, he's good. He's good. He's a good one. He's a good one of the Cardinals. We'll also have speakers Messenger Armando Mateo and Daniel Del Guadio. What does that mean? I was Catholic. I don't know what a messenger is. What is a messenger? Anyway, Pope's going to talk about aliens, and he's got a plan. Pope's got a plan for how we're all going to have to deal with aliens once they become known. Ask yourself this. Why is the Pope wasting his time with a plan? Would the Pope, if anybody were to know, would the Pope know? If your answer is yes, then answer the second question. Why is the Pope wasting his time creating a plan on how we're going to deal with it? Because aliens are real. Vis-a-vis, aliens are real. All right. Thank you, Pope. Who is this, Pope Frank? This is Pope Frank, right? Yeah, it's Pope Frank. Here's a spooky story. This is something dumb because this is something my kid would do. Oh, God. Told the story about how my kid had to go to the hospital yesterday because he got a concussion. Now he's in concussion protocol on the football team, and it's, we're taking it. He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. And I was talking about how you worry about all of these things as a parent. And, there are things that you like, my kid being abducted from the front yard by a creeper in a van, right? Those things you can get past. As I said, like nobody is abducting my 15-year-old, 220-pound, 6 foot kid. Nobody's abducting him. He can throw down. So we're past that fear. I talked about how, there's always like the illness. Like there's always like, oh my God, illnesses can develop at any age. So you always, as a parent, you always carry that. But then there's also like the stupid shit, like the stuff that is just reserved for your kid that is so unnecessary that you're like, oh yeah, I could see my kid dying that way. I could totally see, not all kids. I couldn't see all kids dying that way, but yeah, I could totally see this one being bad for my kid. So here's what it is. Okay. So remember the Tide Pods thing? Didn't worry about it. My kid was not going to eat a Tide Pod. My kid might talk somebody into eating a Tide Pod, but my kid was not going to eat a Tide Pod. I worry about my kid, being the kid at 17 when someone's parents go out of town. I worry about my kid being the one who can drink an entire bottle of Jameson. Check it out! And then being rushed to the hospital because he doesn't understand that no human can drink a bottle of Jameson. called alcohol poisoning and people die. And I worry about those kinds of things because, he's so charismatic. But then I also worry about shit like this. So apparently, we're all familiar with the Hot Ones hot sauce challenge, right? It's very popular. The whole idea of let's eat stuff that's super hot. That's a very popular concept in 2024, and it's taking all different kinds of shapes commercially and entertainment wise. So let's talk commercially. So apparently there is a chip that can be purchased at grocery stores. It can also be purchased at convenience stores. Here's what it's called. It is called a Packy, and it is being marketed as the Packy One Chip Challenge. Okay, so it's a single chip. It's a single Dorito, and it is wrapped in cellophane. A single chip wrapped in cellophane. They cost $10. Cost $10 each. I've never heard of this. Maybe you have, but here I'll give you a picture of it just so you can see what it is. I don't think we need to really be concerned about it at this point. I'll tell you why. Because they, after this incident that I'm going to tell you about right here, they pulled them all off the shelf. So I don't know if they're still available. Maybe some places still have them, but I had never heard of this. Hold on, I'm trying to get you a picture of what this looks like. Again, it's the Packy, Paqui, One Chip Challenge. All right, so here we go. I am the night man. Yeah. I'll show it to you. So here, this is what it looks like. Okay. Okay, so that ain't right. Oh, I see what I did. Boom. There it is. Okay. So that's what it looks like. Just a single chip inside that thing. And apparently it's all the rage with kids and TikTok and social media, and they're running to their 7-Elevens or their Circle Ks or whatever it is that they have, and they're paying $10 and they're buying the one chip, and then they're filming themselves eat the one chip. I mean, honestly, it's quite brilliant on the part of the Packy people. It is truly an interesting and innovative way of melding viral distribution with an unknown product. This is brilliant. So good on them. Here's the problem. People are dying. That's right, because it's apparently a crazy hot chip, and there's a reason it's $10, and there's a reason it only comes in one. A Massachusetts teen who participated in a spicy tortilla chip challenge on social media has died from eating a large quantity of chili pepper extract, and also turns out he had a heart defect. But here's the thing. Okay, so maybe you've got a healthy heart. This doesn't happen to you. You don't die from eating just one of these chips. But do you know all the things that are wrong with your kid, right? I mean, isn't this a hell of a way to find out that your kid has a heart defect? Terrible situation here. This is the kind of thing my son would do. My son, they'd be like, nobody can eat this chip. And my kid would be like, I'll eat it. And my kid would. Harris Woolabaugh, a 10th grader from the city of Worcester, died on, where is it? I lost my place. He died after eating the chip manufactured by Packy, a Texas-based subsidiary of the Hershey Company. Packy pulled the product from stores shortly after Harris's death. A phone number listed for Harris's family was disconnected, blah, blah, blah. Let's see here. Harris died of cardiopulmonary arrest in the setting of recent ingestion of food substance with high capsaicin concentration. So that's the official cause of death. The official cause of death is he had a heart attack from eating something too spicy. This according to the autopsy from the chief officer of the medical examiner. Capsaicin is the component that gives chili peppers their heat, right? This is the thing we always see on that Hot Ones thing. Oh, it's got whatever. The autopsy also said that Harris had cardiomegaly, meaning an enlarged heart and a congenital defect described as microbardial bridging. It is possible that with significant stimulation of the heart, the muscle beyond the bridge suddenly had abnormal blood flow and could have been caused So he ate it. His heart started to pump. He started to sweat, and his heart went ba-boom, and now he's dead. So don't do the stupid hot sauce stuff, and don't do the stupid, this is dumb. I've never heard of such a thing. One chip costs $10 and you could die? No, thank you. There you go. Be careful of that stuff. Who else is in Das News? The news today isn't being very kind to a celebrity from my childhood, although not really. I think this guy came in like after I had already decided that magic dudes were weird. Ladies and gentlemen, David Copperfield is in the news. David Copperfield. I've met this dude. I'll tell a David Copperfield story. He's better known these days, apparently, as David Copperfield. That's right, because, oh my God, the whole world is coming after him. Talk about being Me Too'd. Where was this guy during the Me Too movement? Apparently, okay, so first of all, I met David Copperfield. David Copperfield came on the radio show back, 25 years ago. And I was a producer, and I had to go get him because he had showed up. He had to come up a different way. He came up a special back way. Like, he's freaking David Copperfield. Like, we get a drunk Chris Farley banging on the side door as public as all get out. And you, David Copperfield, need to be brought in the secret passage. Stop it, David Copperfield. Anyway, so that's how it started. I had to go wait by the freight elevators because David Copperfield couldn't come up with the regular dirty people, the peasants. So we got David Copperfield out, and lo and behold, didn't know this. This was kind of awesome. Guess who was with him? Claudia Schiffer. Knew her right away, and as a good producer, immediately said, Claudia, you should come join the interview, to which David Copperfield said, this is my interview. Claudia will be fine. I'm like, okay, weirdo. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning and he's, still wearing a tuxedo. He was a weird guy. So I took him back to the green room, him and Claudia. Claudia, by the way, I don't think she was allowed to speak because I don't think I heard her say one word. He gets seated down back in the green room, David Copperfield, and I'm like, would you like something? Can I get you anything? And I'm standing there and he looked at me and he wouldn't respond. And he just looked at me with like these weird eyes. Like, I don't know if he thought that he was like, trying to communicate with me through nothing, but I'm just standing there. And he's like, and in my head, I'm going, who the fuck is this guy? And you ain't no Doug Henning. I'm a Gen X kid. Doug Henning is my guy. You can't pull this shit on me, David Copperfield. So anyway, I thought he was a D-bag then, and it turns out he is a D-bag. Here's the story breaking today about David Copperfield. Let's see here. And he likes young girls too. Here's a headline. I honest to God believe that I was drugged. Magician David Copperfield's alleged victims speak out. This is from The Guardian. They've been doing this big investigation into a bunch of allegations against magician. By the way, like the most successful magician ever. The dude's worth over $1 billion doing stupid magic tricks. For two 15-year-old girls. Yeah, they were 15. Two 15-year-old girls in the early 90s meeting David Copperfield, the world-famous magician, seemed like the thrill of a lifetime. Carla says she remembers the way Copperfield gave her his phone number after a 1991 show in Georgia. 1991, 30-something David Copperfield has given his phone number to a 15-year-old girl. She felt giddy when the master illusionist picked her out of a crowd to join him on stage for a magic trick. Both girls were in high school at the time and had attended Copperfield shows with their parents. The women, who are now in their 40s, come from different backgrounds and have never spoken to each other, but they do have one thing in common. They claim the events that followed these encounters changed their lives. All right, so anyway, it goes on to talk about a whole bunch of women who are now discussing situations that they were in with David Copperfield when they were teenagers. Like, these are all, they're like, yeah, I was a kid. He was not. We did this. So, I mean, this seems pretty serious. And I make this distinction because it really does. Look, I'll give you an example. So there was one girl, it was her 16th birthday. She was a fan that he had met on the road that he invited backstage and may or may not have had some kind of hookup with her. Anyway, on her 16th birthday, David Copperfield sent her a card with a handwritten note. See you in 2 years. I mean, okay, so this is the difference between court of public opinion and an actual court of law. Because in an actual court of law, that could be seen as evidence that he didn't do anything wrong, that he knew that she wasn't legal, and that he was willing to wait until she was legal. That's court of public opinion. That's that's court of law. Court of public opinion is this dude's a fucking child molester. This dude is a complete creeper. What are you sending a 16-year-old a note that says "see you in 2 years"? Anyway, we shouldn't be spending this much time on David Copperfield. You can just Google him and read all kinds of stories. But yeah, turns out he is creepy. He is creepy. And this is a dude who, for the better part of like the 90s, he always had hot chicks with Claudia Schiffer, most famously. Remember Claudia Schiffer, the Guess Jeans girls? Like right when she was like at her apex. And what was her apex? Well, probably the one thing she did. The one thing we know Claudia Schiffer from is from Guess Jeans, right? Anyway, yeah, so he's hanging out with her. So he did well. He didn't need little kids. She's not a little kid. Nobody looked at Claudia Schiffer and went, oh, she reminds me of a 15-year-old. No, that's not a thing. So I don't know. Was he good looking? I thought he was weird. I mean, I guess I could see how women would be like, he's so dreamy because he's tall, dark, handsome is relative. But I suppose, the money makes him handsome. I thought he was weird. Screw you, David Copperfield, you weirdo. All right, let's talk about another weirdo. Let's talk about another weirdo that is making some news. I told you yesterday about how I'm watching the Spacey thing. Kevin Spacey, the Brits, BBC or whatever. They did this big 2-part. Oh, got to get rid of this. Sorry. Boom. The Packy Chip Challenge. The whole David Copperfield I was missing because I left up the Packy Chip Challenge. My apologies. Made some great facial expressions during the David Copperfield rant. Let's talk about Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey, he was the subject of a BBC 2-part big documentary that aired over there in England because Kevin Spacey is just as much a scumbag in England as he is here in America. He was, of course, acquitted by everything. He went to trial in England, acquitted, went to trial in New York, acquitted, went to trial in Los Angeles, acquitted, went to trial in Boston, dropped. So, and yet we all walk around going, Kevin Spacey's a rapist, weirdo, creep show dude. That's pretty much our thoughts on it. So I was interested to watch the new Spacey doc. As I say, the BBC did it. But now, just after a couple of weeks, now it's on Max. So if you have HBO Max, you can see it. It's called Spacey. It's very good. It's very good because they just don't get, these are not the people, they got a bunch of people who didn't bring charges against them. They just, a bunch of bad dates, if you will. So it's fun from that perspective. That it's just like, oh yeah, let's watch a bunch of people who went on bad. Let's watch a bunch of people who claim they turned down Kevin Spacey when they went on a date with him and he made a move. Oh my God, he's such a criminal. What are you doing in his hot tub? What do you think is going on here? Why did you go to dinner with him and then agree to go back to his house and now you're in his hot tub? Did you think he wasn't going to make a move? I mean, Kevin Spacey's creepy and he's probably inappropriate sex guy, but and that's the other thing that I didn't get about Kevin Spacey. He really does seem to have taken a much harder hit. And I know, I guess that's all relative as well. How, like, what do you mean? Like, it seems like Kevin Spacey is more publicly and casually demonized than, say, a Louis C.K. or I'm trying to think of anybody else, Dane Cook, any of these other people that kind of got thrown under the bus for doing things. And I find it interesting in the case of Spacey. Maybe it's because he's a multiple-time Oscar winner and he's just a bigger star than those people. But Kevin Spacey's, yes, Kevin. One of the things that is very uncomfortable about the Kevin Spacey sex stuff is the power dynamics at play. Kevin Spacey was utilizing the power dynamic, the same thing that Harvey Weinstein used against young actresses who were looking for careers. He had the power to give them what they want. So that's the power dynamic thing. But in the case of Kevin Spacey, it wasn't the same. Because there's an additional power dynamic. There's an aspect to it where it's a man who's big and powerful and intimidating against another woman. In the case of Kevin Spacey, it was all Kevin Spacey with men who, pound for pound, could kick the shit out of Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey liked muscle boys. Kevin Spacey liked Marines. Kevin Spacey liked yoked up steroid dudes. So that's what the Spacey thing is. It's just all a bunch of yoked up steroid dudes who, Kevin Spacey put moves on. And now they're talking about how, and then I told him I wasn't gay, but he still put my, hand on his crotch. And those are horrible. That's like, well, you can't put someone's hand on their, but is it different when you're forcing a yoked up dude who did a couple of tours in Fallujah when you're forcing that dude's hand into your crotch? Is it the same? Is it just as big a crime? Is it just as much a horror as when you're doing that to a 19-year-old young actress who's 105 pounds? Right? It's different. It's different. So it's like Kevin Spacey took a lot of heat, but it wasn't as dangerous. Like the stuff he was doing, his victims were not in danger in the way that a lot of other ones were. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So anyway, I did not finish the second part. I only watched the first part. I think I kind of got a feeling of what the second part is, but it was still interesting. And if you're interested in the whole story and seeing how Kevin Spacey behaves on a date, you might want to watch Spacey on Max. But now, in the wake of that being on Max, a number of Kevin Spacey, I'm not going to call them apologists, but let's say celebrities are willing to lend their name publicly to supporting Hollywood or the established Hollywood scene to let Kevin Spacey back in. They believe that Kevin Spacey has been, kicked out, exiled, Napoleoned, if you want, from Hollywood, and they would like to see him back. Chief among them, Sharon Stone and Liam's Neeson's. They want Kevin Spacey to be forgiven and forgotten. No, forgiven and re-embraced. Sharon Stone and Liam Neeson demand Kevin Spacey be allowed to resume his Hollywood career. Kevin Spacey must be allowed to resume his Hollywood acting career after being wrongly canceled for 7 years. Stars, including Sharon Stone and Liam Neeson's, have told The Telegraph. In a series of statements issued to this newspaper, the A-list actors have... Is Sharon Stone A-list? Sharon Stone ain't A-list. Liam Neeson's... I'll give Liam Neeson's A-list. I'll say he's A-list. Sharon Stone is not A-list. Sharon Stone was A-list. There was a period of time, about 5 years, where Sharon Stone was on the A-list. Sharon Stone ain't A-list. She ain't been A-list in 20 years. Who you kidding? In a series of statements issued to this newspaper, the A-list actors have come out publicly for the first time to insist the witch hunt against Spacey must now end. The two-time Oscar winner has been effectively blacklisted by the film and theater industry since 2017, despite being cleared by courts in the United Kingdom and the United States of allegations of sexual assault. The celebrities have now begun a campaign for his rehabilitation in the wake of the Channel 4 documentary that Stephen Fry, the British actor and author, lambasted for an unjustified and disproportionate attack on his character. I don't know what that means. Anyway, yeah. So they're coming. This is the documentary I was telling you about. So Liam Neeson's and Sharon Stone watched this documentary and had the same takeaway as me. Leave this guy alone. So he made a move on you. You were in his jacuzzi. Well, he thought you were maybe down. How do gay guys hook up? I don't know. Anyway, he is a creep and he's like into weird sex stuff, but hey. Let's see here. F. Murray Abraham also getting involved. F. Murray Abraham, the Oscar-winning actor, said he vouched for Spacey unequivocally. That's the dog. I can see what's happening. I can see out this window what's happening. There's another dog in the neighborhood getting a walk right now, and nothing makes my dog madder than seeing another dog getting a walk when she's not getting a walk. That's why she's barking. It's the whole reason she's barking. She's barking. She's basically saying something like, "Hey, why do you get a walk? How come you're getting a walk right now?" That's basically what she's yelling. F. Murray Abraham vouched for Spacey unequivocally and accused his detractors of being vultures for attacking, quote, "a man who has publicly accepted his responsibility for certain behaviors, unlike so many others." In an interview with The Telegraph, Allison Pearson, Spacey, 64, said he was... what is this? What is this? I don't know what this is. Anyway, people are sticking up for Spacey. I'm like not the only one. And again, you can be a bunch of things. You can be a dick, someone I don't like, but also not necessarily someone who deserves to have their whole life taken away from him. He's a great actor. I can separate. And by the way, I read a lot of books, or used to anyway, in my younger days, about, old Hollywood. So like half of these people, half of these, great lions of, American culture, They were all shit people at some point. They all had stuff. They all had stuff that when you read it 40 years later, you're like, what? What do you mean he was a member of the Nazi Party in 1920? Well, it wasn't the same Nazi Party. Yeah, kinda. That was an example. I wasn't thinking of anyone in particular. All right, let's keep moving. Let's talk about the ACMs. That's the Academy of Country Music. Those awards. Every year they do a big Academy of Country Music award show. It's tonight, Thursday night. Now you're probably thinking, Pugs, why are you talking about an award show that's going off tonight? Well, for a couple of reasons. Well, yesterday I told you about how I'm writing my free 1 week subscription, which I only have 2 days left on, my free 1 week subscription to PBS documentaries on Amazon Prime. It's got a 1 week free trial. And I've been watching PBS documentaries. And the thing that I've been really getting into is Ken Burns' History of Country Music. I've been watching country music. Watched an entire episode yesterday. It was fantastic. So, that's why. That's why I'm talking about the Academy of Country Music Awards. But no, that's not really it. Why I'm talking about this is because here in North Texas, here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, me specifically in Highland Park, a neighborhood of Dallas, I find it fascinating that maybe my friends in other parts of the country don't understand this. The Academy of Country Music Awards tonight, live on whatever. I don't know. It used to be CBS, but now it's probably Prime or something. I don't know. But whatever. The Academy of Country Music Awards tonight, hosted by Reba McEntire, with every big, massive name in country music all in one place coming up on stage. The Academy of Country Music Awards is being held in Frisco. It's in Frisco, Texas. It's like 15 miles from where I am right now. Where I used to live, it's in Frisco. The Academy, it's not in LA, it's not in Nashville at the Ryman Auditorium. It's in Frisco. My friends in the Midwest or Chicago, I mean, that would be like if next year's Grammys were held in Naperville. It's like it doesn't seem to make sense. And the other weird thing is, you mean to tell me that right now in Frisco, like if I went to Stonebriar, like right now, if you went to Stonebriar, do you know how many major country celebrities you would see? Well, maybe not major ones, but like famous people just last minute shopping for tonight's awards. Stonebriar's right there. If you're flying into Frisco to do the Academy of Country Music Awards tonight at 7:00, and it's, noon on Thursday, you're in Frisco, it's rainy, what do you think you're doing? You're going to Stonebriar. But there's a lot of celebrities at Stonebriar. How is it in Frisco? I love Frisco. This is not a knock on Frisco. But that's weird. It's just weird. Again, it'd be like if, next year's MTV Awards are being held in Burleson. It makes no sense. First of all, as I'm learning in the history of country music that I'm watching, the Ken Burns documentary, country music comes in many shapes and sizes. And, the thought to be epicenter of country music, Nashville, is not necessarily in lockstep with, Texas country, which, I was learning about last night. Willie and the split and the move to Austin and all the outlaws and, that rejection of the Nashville country scene and all that. So I don't know. They're in enemy territory in Texas. Texas country, a little bit different. And by different, I mean way cooler. Really, isn't that, if we want to talk about the differences between like the Nashville sound and all, then great, Nashville sound is great. We're going to talk about like the difference between that and like Texas country music, Texas country. Right. Isn't that the easiest way to do it? Well, one's just cooler. One's just way cooler. One's sort of a machine, a corporate machine, and the other is just a bunch of like 60s and 70s hippie stoners who like country music. That's what the Texas scene was, right? Merle and Waylon and Willie and all the entire Austin scene. So I guess, okay, so now I'm talking myself into, okay, so Texas probably is a good place to hold the Academy of Country Music Awards because it does have an important role in the history of country music. All right, moving on. Anyway, I just can't believe it that right now, somewhere at like, I don't know, the food court, Somewhere, if you're in the food court at Stonebriar right now and you're watching a dude just go to town on a chili dog and you're like, that dude looks like Garth Brooks, it might be. It might be Garth Brooks going to town on a Retzel's pretzel right now at Stonebriar Mall. All right, let's see. What else do we have? Yeah. As we are running down today's show, we are almost out. All right, so I have to tell you, a little bit depressed because I have not heard the tip thing go off once today. Didn't go off once yesterday. That was also very sad. Didn't hear it yesterday. If you would like to support the show, drop a little something if you could. Always appreciate it. Do we need to talk about this guy? So Harrison Butker, he's the kicker. He's the Georgia Tech product. He's the kicker for the Chiefs, Super Bowl champion Chiefs. He's a good football kicker. Why do we care about what he thinks about women and where they should be? Well, here's why. Because Harrison Butker, the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, he was invited to give a speech, a commencement speech, at a small, private, very right-thinking small university, tiny little university. And he did, and he went. And you know what? He went, and it's a religious university. He seems to be a very religious guy, you know? So he went and he gave the speech. First of all, it's just like, I mean, you're seeing places, you know, Oprah and Michelle Obama and, you know, whatever, politically speaking. Still a good name to get. Seinfeld. You know, your kid gets, you know, Harrison Butker, the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. But whatever, okay. My point is this. He got up and he said some things. He said some things that maybe through a UCLA lens or whatever is very offensive and nobody liked it. But see, he didn't make this speech at a giant publicly funded university where he basically said that women should be happy being pregnant and, you know, working in the kitchen. He didn't. He made that speech, something that he believed in front of a bunch of people who also believe in that at a private university. And of course, he's being dragged and he needs to be suspended by the league. No. You cannot like what he said. You can choose to not listen to the clip when it crosses your timeline. But what you can't do is say that a dude cannot get up and say a whole bunch of shit that you disagree with in front of a whole bunch of people that don't disagree with him. And that's what he did. And now he's being totally, I mean, he seems like a real dope to me, just the way I think. He seems like a dopey guy. And he's like, oh, my wife was happy being, you know, and maybe that's true. Maybe that is true. I mean, I honestly, you know, I've talked about this before, this idea that, you know, the women don't want to not have careers. Women don't want, I'm like, really? I'd like to see the math on that. Because I can tell you as a guy, I would certainly be happy being in a relationship with a wealthy attorney woman, you know, and I can stay home and keep house and all of that. That doesn't sound terrible. Why? The idea that is all women can do is a terrible one, but I don't know, who's saying that? So whenever anybody gets up and goes, I want a woman who wants to stay home and cook, why is that person demonized? I bet there are women who want to stay home and cook. So let him go find those women and let them do their thing. That's kind of like what happened with this Harrison Butker dude. He said a bunch of stuff that I think is that this dude's a fucking jarhead, you know, but whatever. We don't even have the right to complain that it was a public university or anything. It's like a small, private, liberal, Catholic university. Tiny. I mean, my God, their commencement speaker was Harrison Butker. So anyway, people are taking shots at him because now we know what the worldview of the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs is, and we can't live with that knowledge. Oh, shut up. He's the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. What do you care what he thinks? You had no clue what he thought before, and you were totally fine with him. You are an emotional infant. You are also an intellectual peon. Harrison Butker, maybe he's a piece of garbage. Maybe you are. Maybe you're also a piece of garbage. Hard Knocks. Here's a new story. We're getting into a run here of football stuff where we'll do some football talking. Hard Knocks has announced their third installation in their yearly schedule of offerings. Hard Knocks, of course, has been on the air for 25, 30 years. Hard Knocks training camp with your favorite NFL team. It's been going on since, I don't know, I think the 90s, right? Hard Knocks training camp with the Cowboys. Hard Knocks training camp with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was the thing. And a couple of years ago, because of, suddenly all these platforms and everything, we need more content. Suddenly Hard Knocks went, well, we can do an in-season version. So a couple of years back, I believe it was the Indianapolis Colts. Hard Knocks created Hard Knocks in season with the Indianapolis Colts. And this took place in the middle of the season, and it talked about teams making their playoff push. Now, I'm not complaining about any of this stuff. I absolutely love Hard Knocks. I think that they do a wonderful job, and, it's how I become familiar with teams I typically don't give a shit about. But I'll watch them all. I'll watch every episode. I believe I've probably seen every episode of every season. So they introduced a third installment now coming next year. It's going to be Hard Knocks off season. That's right. Instead of training camp getting ready for the season and in season, which is self-explanatory, in season. Now it's going to be off season. It's going to be all about preparing for the draft and free agencies and, all of that kind of stuff, coaching turnover. Probably going to be really interesting. The NFL has done a better job than any other sport. I shouldn't say this because I really don't know what the day in, day out of Premier League soccer is during their offseason. Their offseason window is very small anyway. But the NFL, it's a pretty big offseason window. When the season ends in early February and doesn't start again until late August, that's a pretty big chunk of time that industry would otherwise lie dormant. But the NFL has done an incredible job. The draft is one of the biggest. I believe that the NFL draft is probably the second biggest single yearly event that the NFL pulls off. The first being the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl, then the NFL draft. Bigger than opening weekend, because opening weekend is essentially the prerogative of the individual teams who are doing they're working within a guideline provided by the NFL. But no, I think it's draft. That's off season. My God. For minicamp, rookie minicamp just happened. The coverage of rookie minicamp was crazy. And then, of course, last night we had the schedule release. All the schedules for all the NFL teams was released last night. And it's like the internet went nuts. It's everybody. So it's big. The NFL has done an incredible job. And there is a reason. There is a reason for, I can see, a Hard Knocks off season. Be interesting. New York Giants have been chosen as the inaugural team for Hard Knocks off season. It will cover their, I don't know if they already did it. Like, did they just film the off season and so this is coming, or if this is for next season? I have a sneaking suspicion that they've already filmed it, but whatever, we'll see. I love Hard Knocks. I love Hard Knocks despite the fact that my Chicago Bears have never in the history of Hard Knocks appeared on Hard Knocks. And for me and any number of my fellow Bear fans, we are so angry at one man, George McCaskey, because he is the reason the Bears have been asked to be on Hard Knocks just about every year. And we are at the point now where the NFL can force you. This is a big story in Chicago sports radio. The NFL can force you to do Hard Knocks if you've never done it. Here are the rules. You've never done it before. If you've gotten to the point where every team in the league has done it but you, the NFL can say you're doing Hard Knocks. The Bears are at that point. Everybody, I think there's only like 2 other teams that haven't done it. But the other thing is if you have a first-year head coach. If you have a first-year head coach and you don't want to distract him in his first year with the Hard Knocks cameras and the documentary thing, you can say no. So there's that. And then it's also if you made the playoffs last year. So if you made the playoffs last year, you can say no to Hard Knocks. And I can tell you the Chicago Bears have been in the position many times over the last couple of years where it's been looking like it was obvious that they were going to do it. We thought that they were going to be in the Hard Knocks this year because of, the big rookie draft class and all the attention being paid to Caleb Williams and whatnot. But I guess we still don't know. I guess that's going to be, it might be the Jets again, right? Wasn't it the Jets? No, it was the Jets last year. I would think it'd be the Jets. I don't know. George McCaskey is the dude's name. He does not want Hard Knocks. He's the president, CEO of the Chicago Bears every time. Nope, don't want Hard Knocks, don't want Hard Knocks, don't not. And we Bear fans were like, fuck, man. Come on, give us a little something. But they're going to be forced. So that's the countdown. That's the big talk in Chicago. Again, sports, Bear talk right now is that they're going to be forced here in the next year or two because they've completely run out of options. They're going to be forced to do one of these three things. They're not going to be allowed to skate. I wish my team had an owner like Jerry Jones, who was always like, yeah, put us on. Yeah, we'll do it, because they understand the marketing. They understand that. My Bears they're run by a bunch of weirdo Catholics who don't want any attention. And they just want to go pray and, wear monk robes and stuff. It's a very bizarre family, the Hallises. Actually, no, the Hallises are cool. It's the McCaskies that are weird. So the schedule. Let's talk about the schedule. Schedule release happened last night. The NFL schedules. It was a very big deal. Now, I want to talk a little bit about one of the things that I noticed right away about the schedule. Okay, so I love, me, I'm sort of a dork for means of distribution. I stream every day. Yeah, I love the idea of having more than just the 3 channels that we grew up on, and now we've got all these different means of digital distribution we watch on our phone. I love it. I love that. I love the ease of access. I love the idea that I can be at my son's football practice on a Saturday, and this was something we went through. I can be at my son's football practice on a Saturday, on a wild card Saturday when there are wild card games going on, and I can sit in the bleachers watching my son's football practice while also watching the early wild card game. That is awesome. That is awesome. You couldn't do that in 1995. So I'm all for these innovations. And one of the things that I was interested in for this year's schedule release was, what was Prime going to look like? What was Amazon Prime and Amazon Prime's package going to look like? And here's why. Because for the first 2 years that Amazon Prime has had this exclusive streaming package with the NFL, it started a couple of years ago. The first couple of years, and we all know this, the Amazon Prime games have sucked. It's been Jacksonville at Minnesota. Just no lame games that people were not interested in. They weren't rivalries. Al Michaels was roundly called out for having a total lack of interest in these games that he's being called. Now, we know that Prime paid a whole lot of money. So I wanted to see what would Prime's schedule of Thursday night games look like now after last season going through. These games all suck. Well, guess what? The $1 billion Prime and the rise of streaming, it's starting to pay off, because Prime got some amazing Thursday night games. Who does Prime have? Prime has Steelers at Ravens, right? So that's a big Thursday night game. That's always going to be big in division. Prime's got Bills at Dolphins. They got Jets at Patriots. They got the Bengals. They got Burrow at Jackson on Thursday night. Bengals Ravens on Thursday night. They've got the end of season Lions at Packers. That's going to be an NFC North war that's going on there. They got Rams at 49ers. I mean, these are all, so they took care of Amazon Prime. Now, here's why they got shitty games for the first couple of years, because it was an experiment. Amazon Prime desperately wanted to get into the NFL game, so Amazon Prime had to come to the NFL pot in hand and go, we've got a whole bunch of money, and if you just take a chance on us. And the NFL was like, we don't want to do streaming. We are not interested in streaming. They played hard to get. So they said, fine, we'll take your money, Amazon Prime. And Amazon Prime gave a whole bunch of money, and they got a bunch of shit games in return because they were still being, treated like they weren't important. Well, guess what? 2 years after Prime having to sit with shit games, Netflix comes to the table. And now Netflix is like, hey, we want to stream some games. Netflix got the Christmas games. So the big Christmas games, that's right, starting next year, Netflix is going to stream live NFL games. They're going to get 2 Christmas games. They paid $75 million per game, $150 million. So if you've been pushing back on the idea that the NFL is going to go almost completely all stream, I'd say within 10 years, there's going to be no way to watch NFL other than streaming. Netflix getting involved. Look, is Fox going to lose football? Is Fox going to be outbid for the entire slate of games by a Netflix who's got deeper pockets than Fox may? Or by a Prime that suddenly wants to do the full slate of games? YouTube got involved. Why can't Prime? The money from these streaming services is just bigger than it is from ABC, NBC, and CBS. So I think that's really what's going to happen next. We are seeing favoritism, big games being shown by the NFL to the streaming service, something we hadn't seen in the last couple of years. Okay. Also, schedule releases. Another thing that the NFL has done incredibly well. These schedule releases have become a big deal. We're all excited about this, but not just because who's our team going to play next year and when, but because the teams themselves have gotten involved in the release of their schedule, and they're doing it in really creative ways. I don't know if you follow any of your favorite NFL teams, if you follow them on Twitter or whatever. Here, I'll show you how the Cowboys did it. This is the Cowboys release. This is how they released their schedule last night. I believe it was at 7:00 or something. Cowboys. They're saying that the San Diego Chargers did the best schedule release. They had this sim style cartoon animation, and there was a whole bunch of shots. They took shots at Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, and it was kind of funny and all that. But here, I'm going to show you what the Cowboys did for theirs. The Cowboys got a whole bunch of celebrities involved. See, each team has this big production that they shoot for a viral release of their schedule, and each team is trying to outdo the other team, and it's really kind of interesting. So here, this is going to be the Cowboys. This is how the Cowboys released their schedule. Two Cowboy. We'll watch it. Well, we don't have to watch the whole thing because, it's actually a pretty long video. It's like 4 minutes. All right, so I don't know who these people are, but it's all, I guess the premise of, is that Post Malone? Yeah, I mean, who else looks like that with tattoos? I don't know who the guy wearing number 4 is. No idea. Okay, so we know the back row. So the premise of the Cowboys release was that Cowboy fans, Post Malone, would call other celebrity fans of other teams and announce, we're coming to kick your ass or whatever, we're playing them. Okay, so that's how the Cowboys released their schedule. Here it is, the official Cowboys schedule release, starring Post Malone and that other dude, number 4. All right, week 1, Cleveland Browns. So that's one of the Paul brothers, right? That's Jake Paul. So he's representing the Cleveland Browns. He's from Cleveland.
I'm a part of one of these things.
All right, week 2 against the Saints. I have no idea who this is. Week 3 against the Ravens. I have no idea who that is. All right, week 4 against the Giants. That's Eli Manning. I get that one. Eli Manning.
What in the world? Hello? I think I got the wrong number.
Oh my gosh. Hi, everyone.
All right, I don't know who any of those are, but that's pretty clever. That's pretty clever how the Cowboys put it together. You want to see something cringy AF? All right, I'm going to show you what my Bears did. Oh, God, this is so cringy. Again, people are saying the San Diego Chargers did it best. If you want to check out the San Diego Chargers release announcement, they did a Sims thing. There was some funny in there. It was kind of humorous. So the Bears utilized all of their players and some other people as well. Mostly it's their... Here it is. All right. The Bears utilized all of their players, and they did a John Hughes, because Chicago, John Hughes, Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles, Ferris. They did one of those kinds of deals, set around a high school, and all the Bears players played different versions of, I don't know, let's just watch it. It's cringy bad. It's cringy bad, and we're not going to watch the whole thing because this is my team, and it's embarrassing. All right, here we go.
A new year. Exciting, isn't it? Let me show you around. You've got your class clowns, your sportos, your popular kids.
By the way, that's Jake. That's Jake Johnson, noted Bear fan. He's pretty funny comedian, but that's who's doing the narration in the And then you can hear the bad, like 80s kind of music. They didn't want to pay for the rights to actually use a Simple Minds song. And anyway, and these are all these guys are Bears players. DJ Moore plays the Ferris Bueller guy.
Let me introduce you to DJ. If there is anyone who knows their way around this place, it's him.
I saw DJ wearing a beige jacket, so I bought a beige jacket.
Well, that's intense. Anyway, as the kids say, he's a pretty righteous dude.
Oh, thank you.
Can he hear me?
Y'all don't hear the bell? The bell is wrong! Get the class!
And here's the dean.
Oh.
You should probably avoid him.
Whoa, skirt. Detention. That's where you need to go.
Make that 2 people to avoid.
So, yep, turn.
All right, did you see that? So that's another stupid thing they did that I hated about the Bears movie.
Skirt. Detention.
So,
that's where you need to go.
This is Annie Agar. She's a fairly well-known NFL personality, and she's a Packer fan. So they got her out. They start with week 11. I mean, I get it. It's Chicago. We really do only care about when we're playing the Packers. So from that, but I got very confused with the games. Why can't you just do what the Cowboys did? Was you went week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4.
That 2 people to avoid.
So, yep, turn around.
Here we find the mathlete. They were runner-up last year, but that's pretty good.
Week 14.
Now, this kid right here went completely unnoticed, and then bam! Suddenly they're the envy of the entire school. This exchange student was actually from Florida before moving to England. Or was it England then Florida? Wait, who's this?
All right, I just can't with this. It's so cringy bad. Anyway, I thought the Cowboys was pretty clever with calling the other celebrities, and I think San Diego Chargers are the ones that everybody's saying they're the best. Chargers did it best. Chargers was funny. I don't even want to waste your time on the Chargers. Go ahead, you can look at the Chargers. I mean, it's not great. It's like, you're not going to be like, that's the funniest thing, but it's clever, for an NFL team's social media department. I thought what the Chargers did had some pretty clever jokes. All right, what else do we have here? Okay, we're going to end the show with this. I want to talk a little bit about this because I'll tell you, I typically do not allow myself to fall victim to group narrative think or stuff like that. But I did. I have to be honest with you, gang. I fell victim. I listened to what other people say, and it cost me. It cost me. I didn't go with my heart. I didn't go with what I thought, and it cost me. I'm going to explain to you what I'm talking about. So I want to talk about that Jerry Seinfeld movie, Unfrosted. That's right. And let me tell you something. I don't think you're going to hear what I'm going to say about this thing from anybody else. I was very excited about Jerry Seinfeld's directorial debut. I don't even know if that's true. I can't name anything else he directed, so let's pretend it is. Unfrosted, the story, a silly, madcap, zany, vaudevillian-esque, star-packed, bit-driven comedy about the war between Kellogg's and Post to introduce the toaster pastry, which, as we know from the Kellogg's side of things, is the Pop-Tart, and from the Post side of things, something that was known as the Country Square, which would change its name to Toastums and Pop-Tarts. Okay, so that's what it's about. It's just about a silly, stupid story from the 1960s in a town, Battle Creek, Michigan, that was absolutely dominated by the two cereal manufacturers, Kellogg's and Post, and just kind of the funny things that occur within that universe where the most important thing in the world is breakfast cereal. He got everybody in it. Absolutely everybody that's funny is in this movie, even if it's just for one scene. And it's the story. That's exactly what it is. It's the story of that. And by the way, the story itself is pretty close to the real story. I mean, these things did really happen. They do use real names, but it's played for madcap, absurdist comedy. A good example is you can't Bill Burr plays JFK. JFK gets involved in the Pop-Tart versus Toastum wars. Do you think that really happened? No, it's absurdist. It's silly. There are also plays on January 6th. January 6th? January 7th? What was it? January 6th? What it was January 6th, right? There's plays on that. All of the Kellogg's cereal mascots band together and try to take down corporate before they can introduce the Pop-Tart, because the cereal mascots believe that the Pop-Tart is going to put them all out of business. Anyway, so from the original trailer for Unfrosted, I saw it and I was like, this looks funny. This looks funny. This looks good. And then it came out and everybody's like, that movie sucked. That movie sucked. I heard somebody say it sucked and now it sucked. And I was like, oh, that's a shame. Oh, that's a shame. Other things I wanted to watch, that's a shame. So I ended up watching it. I ended up watching it over the course of the last 2 days. I don't understand why people don't like that movie. I found that movie to be absolutely delightful and very funny. Very funny. But here's the problem, and this is what I think the issue is with this movie. This is not a movie that is familiar to anyone who has seen comedy films in the last 20, 25, 30 years. It is a throwback style of comedy filmmaking that relies on you to suspend your judgment. Like one of the critiques of it was, here, let me hold on. Okay, so this is the guy from Roger Ebert. He watched it and he said, the movie is a mishmash of fact and fiction and goofing around, but there's just enough reality to irritate history nerds that the filmmakers apparently don't care about offering even a wildly exaggerated. He's basically saying that it's a true story, but a lot of this never happened. Oh, really? JFK didn't get involved? That's your problem, that you don't believe that JFK? Well, of course not. And this brings us back to what I was saying about this style of movie and why I think that it's missed to the degree that it has. Although I believe it will be vindicated. I think this will be one of those movies over years that people be like, oh, I thought that was pretty funny. It's a style of comedy film that isn't made anymore. It's a style of comedy film made famous by like slapstick vaudevillian over-the-top satires like Mad, 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 Mad World, right? Stuff like that. What's Up, Doc? From the 1970s. Even if you want to go a little bit further, Dumb and Dumber, right? There are huge swaths of this story that you have to be comfortable with suspending belief on. There's like magic involved in this thing. But is it funny? Is the premise funny? Are the jokes funny? Are the performances from people like Hugh Grant as Tony the Tiger? Hugh Grant plays the guy who is Tony the Tiger, and he takes himself very serious. He's a Shakespearean actor who can't get work, and so he's forced to just go, they're great, and he's like very much into that. It's funny. It is just, the movie is just one scene after another of really funny stuff. Melissa McCarthy is funny. She's just a funny chick. That chick just does funny stuff. A lot of it is poop and fart related, but it doesn't matter. She's still funny as hell. Jim Gaffigan, Bill Burr. I mean, it's just filled with funny people. So if you were not watching as I did, and I took like a week off, I'm like, I don't want to see that movie. If you're not watching it because you heard certain people say this or that about it, give it a chance and just enjoy it. It's funny. And again, that's what I think. I think it's people who don't remember what, the front page, I don't know if you've ever seen the front page, the madcap comedies. It's a madcap comedy. And I don't know the last time that Hollywood has made a madcap comedy. Here are a couple more of the reviews, though. I did want to read this. According to the Hollywood Reporter, the film received sharply divided reaction from critics, though most were not bowled over. On the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, 42% of 108 critics reviews were positive, with an average rating of 5 out of 10. Boy, that's taking a stand. That's right in the middle. The website consensus reads, much like a preservative-packed toaster's pastry, Unfrosted is sweet and colorful, yet it's ultimately an empty experience that may leave the consumer feeling, an empty experience. like Blazing Saddles. Blazing Saddles would probably leave you empty if you were looking for some sort of depth or social criticism. No, it's just fucking funny. It's just a silly, funny movie. Let's see. What else does it say? Much like a preservative pack. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 42 out of 100 based on 30 critics, indicating mixed or average reviews. In her review for the New York Times, Amy Nicholson finds the jokes spill forth so fast that there's no time for the shtick to get soggy. Wasn't that a good thing? Isn't that good? I mean, it really is rapid fire jokes. The joke writing, the dialogue writing is very funny. It's silly. It's absurd. I mean, these people are, World War III is about to happen because of Pop-Tarts versus Toastums. That's kind of the thought of the movie. You got to be okay with that concept going in. Matt Zoller, writing for Roger Ebert, he gave the film a half a star. He's the one that didn't like the history. In her Hollywood Reporter review, Sherry Linden deems the film a straight-up comedy. No therapeutic underpinnings or civic lessons. That is funniest when it isn't trying too hard. She also okay, this is a good one. This is somebody who I agree with. Okay, so in her review in the Hollywood Reporter, Sherry Linden deemed the film a straight-up comedy. No therapeutic underpinnings or civic lessons. That is funniest when it isn't trying too hard. She praises the behind-the-camera skill and talent. Talked about the acting, the comedic performance. It's a good movie. That's all I'm going to say. For some reason, though, this is like turning into the Nickelback thing. It's like, oh, Nickelback is the worst band ever. No, they're not. You know, this is turning into something that's going to be programmed. Like Geely. You guys ever seen the movie Geely? Maybe not. Because when Geely came out, somehow the narrative that got established was that it is the dumbest, worst movie of all time, and you should never see it, and anybody who wastes their time. So nobody saw Geely. I saw Geely like 10 years ago. I'm like, why is this considered the worst movie of all time? It's a Ben Affleck J-Lo film. It's a movie. I don't get why. So I think that's kind of what's happening with this movie, Unfrosted, Jerry Seinfeld's humorous depiction of the war between Kellogg's and Post. I enjoyed it. It's still on Netflix. Oh, by the way, here's the thing. It's like number 2 it's doing incredibly well on Netflix. So people are watching it, despite whatever the publicly accepted narrative of. Make up your own mind. I'm just telling you. I like comedy, and I thought it was funny. All right, that's going to do it, folks. We appreciate you hanging out with me today. Tomorrow, Friday, end of the week show. Please tip the show if you can. I can't say that enough. Listen, getting that rolling thunder coming through. It's going to be a rainy, wet day. Be safe. Also, like, follow, subscribe, do all that stuff. If anything big happens, I'll jump back on. I like to do that. There really hasn't been anything big that has happened in quite some time. You know, think about that. That's good. That's good. Because when I say something big, typically what that means is a plane has crashed or there's been a school shooting or something terrible like that. But also, you know, like, follow, and subscribe because you never know when I am going to jump in. Thank you to everybody. Hopefully we'll have an executive producer tomorrow. You can drop something there if you want, but I am done. The stream of consciousness has exhausted me beyond the ability to cultivate any more words.